Hello, my name is XPlato, and this will be my first Armored Warfare upload. Enjoy. Now I'm playing on the M1 Abrams in Operation Wildfire. Obviously, this is going to be on hard mode. This is just PvE, but if you want to see PvP, I can also do PvP. It really doesn't matter to me. I think PvE is a lot more or less stressful, and you earn more rewards overall because you're waiting practically every single game, unless something really goes wrong. As for the M1 itself, it gets a bad rap by the community because it's in the same tier as the Challenger 1, really. If the Challenger 1 was not in the game at tier 7, the M1 would probably be the best tier 7 MBT. It has enough armor to shrug off most enemies. If you hide the lower plate, its only other real frontal weakness is the turret ring, which is bigger. I think the model is messed up because of that, and it's driver's hatch. But hiding the lower plate is what you're going to have to do. In PvE, you can basically keep your front on towards most enemy tanks, but you have to watch out for the tanks like the VFM, the Stingray, the Stingray 2, and especially the M8 Thunderbolt, because those things will pen you, and so they want to be your priority target. Other tanks like the MT90, other M1, M1A2s, Challenger 1, Challenger 2s, C1 Ariades, the Leopard variants aren't really a big deal to you. You can basically shrug most of their hits off, and you should always be using the terrain to your advantage, because you can basically set up over a rock or something, and you can basically make it so all they can hit is your turret, which means you can shrug off most hits, and they will most likely, the other MBTs will just shoot like HE at you. As for ammo usage, a lot of players get this wrong on the M1. They use strictly armored piercing discarding Sabot rounds, whereas you should also be having about a quarter heat shells or less. About 8 or 10 in total is all you want. Because if you use the right retrofits on the M1, you can do upwards of 700 damage with heat shells to lighter skin vehicles like Bradley's. Just make sure to not hit their spaced armor, which will obviously stop your shell from penetrating and doing any damage. But you should be aware that if you're going up against MBTs, it's still best to use the other round, the kinetic penetrator, because heat shells are still kind of finicky unless you can get shots on the rear, and then you have to make sure to, like, tanks like the M1A2 don't have like cage armor, which will still stop your heat shell. As for the line in general, the American MBT line is really good. Its only real downside is really the Starship, and even then the Starship is a tier 4, so you can easily get through it in a day, so it's not that big of a deal. The XM1 used to be really good back during the beta phase, or back then it was basically able to just like basically seal club everything, because there were so many tier 6 premium tanks. It would only ever see tier 6 because everybody was playing MBT 70s. I will be sure to make a video of that pretty soon. As for the tier 7, it's, like I said, it's a good tank. It's probably the most rounded tier 7. It's not the strongest in one area, but it can do everything really well. So it doesn't have the best armor or the best firepower like the T80 and the Challenger 1, but it has good speed, good firepower, and good armor. And so it's able to essentially dictate the engagement, which leads it to be able to use its DPM to just shred everything. Now, it won't be shredding things like, say, a T90 MS will, but pretty much nothing in the game is going to shred things like a T90 MS is. I'm going to be completely honest here. That thing is just amazing is the word for it, I guess I should be saying. Now, as for what I think about MBTs in general in Armored Warfare, if you're playing PvE past tier 7, I honestly would recommend you play MBTs. You can play other tanks, but you're going to have a lot more of a struggle. And if your team is nothing but non-MBT tanks, it's going to be an uphill battle to win that game, especially mostly on hard. On like medium and like easy difficulty, it'll be no problem, because those two difficulties are really easy to beat. But on like hard mode, you're going to want to have probably 3 MBTs around there, and then get like one AFV and then like one wheeled TD if you can, because at that point it's important to keep in mind that the enemies will somewhat mirror your own team comp. So if you have all MBTs, it's going to be too hard for your MBTs because they're just going to swarm you with all of their HP pools, so you have to keep that in mind. But mostly MBTs are easily the strongest class in the game. That has, in all honesty, partially to do with the simple thing that MBTs are dominant in real life. So there isn't a lot that Obsidian Entertainment can really do to fix that. I mean, they're trying to improve anti-tank guided missiles right now, and they certainly are, but the MBT is essentially the strongest class in the game, and there really isn't anything to make it not the strongest class. Because look at the tier 6 and above MBTs, they all employ speed, maneuverability, and firepower reasonably well. Even the Challenger 1, which isn't exactly the fastest tank in the game, still is able to, you know, flex. It can still flex, it can still use its firepower. It still has these things going for it, whereas, say, a wheeled TD, it doesn't have armor, and its wheels make it kind of finicky. You have to watch out, but it has firepower. Whereas, take like an AFV, it can scout and it's fast, but it doesn't have armor or firepower. So you really have to understand that an MBT by its very nature is always going to be the strongest tank in Armored Warfare. It's not like World of Tanks where medium tanks at top tier are essentially the best, whereas heavy tanks at around tier 5 to 8-ish are going to be the best, barring a few exceptions here and there. Yeah, that's my current thoughts on Armored Warfare, and if you guys want, leave a comment below and I will look at pretty much any game that you guys would like me to play and upload. I can play World of Tanks. I have a couple of tier 10s and I have a good amount of tier 8s, a healthy amount of tier 9s. I have a lot of tier 8 premium, so I can play that for you. As for War Thunder, I'm pretty terrible when it comes to planes. Like, I'm pretty sure somebody who didn't have like their entire like left hand could probably outplay me in planes, but in War Thunder Ground Forces I can do pretty well, I like to believe. World of Warships I can also play. I'm up to about tier 6 in World of Warships, but I can play it if you want to see that kind of video. If you want me to do live commentaries, I can do that too. I won't be against it. You might hear me rage a little bit more than is probably healthy. I do have that problem, to be honest. As for other games, you can leave them in the comments if you want me to play a specific game. I'll check it out. I'm pretty terrible at RTSs, but I'm pretty good at FPS. I like to believe I can usually hold a pretty good kill to death ratio if that's important. But I like to play the objective more generally nowadays. As for myself, I am a 23-year-old male living in Minnesota in the United States. I do play on the EU server in Armored Warfare, mainly because the player population is better. And honestly, dealing with 130 ping isn't really that big of a deal since I played on the EU server on World of Tanks for years, so it's not a big deal to me at all. It's not like in, say, like in FPS. In a game like Armored Warfare, ping doesn't really matter unless you're getting like 300 or something. If you're connecting to like Russia in Siberia, it won't matter. Or if you have a really, terrible connection that day. As for myself, I currently have a job at our local Arby's. It's basically a fast food chain, although the upper people in the corporation like to believe that it's not fast food, even though it clearly is fast food. It's a pretty fun job overall. There are a few people there that I don't really care for, but most days it can be decently relaxing. I work at a local Arby's that isn't that busy, so if we get, say, like a $400 hour during lunch, which is, it's not that many, to be honest. It's like a McDonald's, like when it's doing really terrible. So that's good. I close a lot, so that there's that to keep in mind. But I am trying to work more towards the day because I enjoy days more. Working at night generally means you have people come in at like the worst times possible. But yeah, this will be my first commentary. I do hope you enjoy it, and please leave some constructive criticism below. And if you enjoyed it and you would like to see more content, which I will be uploading in the next couple days for sure. Subscribe if you feel that it's worth yours. If you feel that I'm putting out valuable content for you to enjoy. Because that's the one thing I want. I want you to have entertainment and fun and enjoyment. Thank you.
Penetrating. Penetrating. Nailed it. Penetrating.
Identify target.
Hostile tank. All right, the SAMs are taking out their cargo planes. Good work, Black Company.